What's going on, Relocation Football League fans? Welcome back to another edition of Miners Live. I am your host, head coach, and general manager of the Sacramento Miners, Coach Chris Dunn, and we're about 1 week away. We are officially 1 week away from the regular season coming to a close. The playoffs will start in 2 weeks, and all of the back and forth and wondering what was going to happen, what teams were going to make the playoffs, which players were going to win the awards, rookies of the year, all of that stuff will be determined in less than a week and a half. Very exciting times for the teams that are making the playoffs. Not so exciting times for the teams that have just not made a run of it, not had a go of it. So we'll get into a little bit of what the playoffs are going to look like, at least as of right now, what they kind of look like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Before I get into anything, I do like to start off every show with the where Dunner was right, where Dunner was wrong bit. But before I do that, if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button, let's see what we can get to. We are going to be going probably pretty close up to the RFL podcast tonight. So we do have RFL all night. We can get hashtag RFL all night in the chat. We'll be rolling up probably close to 8:30 tonight here. And then you'll be able to flip over to the official RFL channel where you'll have the RFL podcast later on tonight. So before I do any more of that, take a quick peek at the chat and see who we've got. Obviously, the first one in the chat is my good buddy Rohan. Rohan, good to see you. Looks like we've got Ramos in here, Miles McCain, who, for those of you that don't know, is struggling to get Rookie of the Year votes at this particular point. Now finds himself third in the ARC in Rookie of the Year. So obviously hoping for a big game this week. I'm mind blown at how that's transpiring right now. But yeah, right now, Miles McCain is not ARC Rookie of the Year. He's in third, which to me and to many of you probably makes no sense whatsoever. I see we got CP here. Big matchup this weekend. The Cougars taking on the Voyagers. That game has a lot of meaning for me. And the Voyagers, as of right now, would not be in. If they win that game, they get in. So certainly the Cougars and Voyagers, that is a big game for the Voyagers this week. Obviously not so much for the Cougars, who are going to be golfing on Sunday afternoon, possibly even late Saturday. But let's see who else we got in here. I see EA, Coach Q. Super excited for Coach Q. I know what it was like when I first joined the league, my first year, to be able to go to the playoffs my first year in the league. So shout out to Coach Q. The Riverhogs will be going to the playoffs this year. Not only going to the playoffs, but they won the division. So a difficult division in the ARC West there. So shout out to Coach Q for being able to win that division in his first year as a coach. And I've got a little special guest for you guys today too. So I think before I go into where Dunner was right, where Dunner was wrong, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my special guest here. He'll join us for a little while, and we'll go ahead and say hello to our good buddy Mitchie. What's going on, pal?
Oh, not too much. Life's going on. Just getting ready for the playoffs this upcoming week. We're on our third NFL game in a row. We're getting healthy. We're getting rested. And we're going to be ready to take on whatever team we are going to face in the first round. Currently, we are the 6th seed. So as it would sit, if the playoffs start today, we are taking on the Mexico City Diablos and Coach Forbes down in Mexico. A rematch from earlier this year where we came out, we lost, I think it was 25-20. That was in Portland. So this will be a big in-time big rivalry game and a makeup game to get back to the Diablos in the first round.
So that was week 11. Yeah,
11.
25-20.
Yeah,
25-20. So you held tight, right? I mean, obviously you're hoping
some things
for.
that people don't know. I went to the camp that week, and when I got home, my depth chart had actually been readjusted. So some things weren't the way I would have liked it. I'm not saying that we would have won the game if we had the correct depth chart, but I definitely think the probabilities could have helped because our right tackle did not play. Our slot corner was wrong. Our slot receiver was wrong. Again, I'm not saying we win the game, but I definitely think those things make impact.
Am I sensing a little bit of trash talk?
I'm not really a trash talker.
This is about as close as you get to trash talk, right, Mitchie?
Yeah, this is about as close as you'll get out of me. But I definitely think we have the dogs. We have the dogs to beat the Diablos.
Are you going to let them out?
Oh, I've been calling my defense the dogs all year. You can ask Roland. I call my defense the dog defense because we don't let anything up.
Listen, the only thing I'm asking Roland right about now is who he's going to take with the top 5 pick in the draft. Okay, so that's where Roland and I stand. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I like to start off every show with a where Dunner was right, where Dunner was wrong. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. Where Dunner was right, obviously, the Miners would prove critics wrong. I said this at the beginning of the year. It was easy to say at the beginning of the year after week 2 when Chumlee came back and kind of just put it on us. We did have 2 interceptions on him, but the Armadillos just outplayed us. But I said then, and I've said throughout the season, that this team would prove people wrong and it was going to get better throughout the season. And sure enough, that's exactly what has happened. Now, that's a great segue into where Dunner was wrong. I'm going to be honest, guys. Like, there's one thing that drives me nuts about a lot of people in this league, and that is people who aren't realistic and people who aren't honest with themselves and or with their team. And so where I was wrong, I did not envision winning the division this year. Having won the division 2 years in a row coming into this year, I didn't see that happening. Obviously, it's a pleasant surprise, and I'm glad that we did. But I guess this is where I will bring you in here, Mitchie, too, because I know, and this is where I'm going to give it to you a little bit, because you and some of your buddies had us as I believe it was the 28th team out of 32 when the season started. Is that correct?
Yeah. Preseason rankings made you at 28.
Preseason ranked 28th in the RFL, and now, obviously, seeding in the playoffs is different than, what the power rankings might be or what you might actually rank someone. But as far as seeding goes, worst case scenario is we are 6, right? In terms of the entire RFL. I believe at this point, the worst we can get is the 3 seed in the ARC. And so even if you said that we were the worst 3 seed, we'd be looking at a 6. Now, I completely understand, and I'm realistic that there's a team in the ARC that I think is a better team than we are, and we are a higher seed than them, and that is the London Bulldogs. I unfortunately for them, they are in a very difficult division. If they're not able to win that division, then we're going to get a higher seed because the top 4 seeds are always going to go to the 4 teams that win the division. So I just think that this team has come a long way. And I'm going to give you the opportunity right now for all of the Miners fans out there and everyone watching Miners Live right now, Mitchie. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say, I was wrong.
We were definitely not on the right trajectory when we made that prediction, but heading into the season, there was a lot of question marks with you guys, and the Miners. Obviously, Miles McCain being a rookie, being a 70 overall on draft night, obviously that's going to turn heads right out the gate. You're going to be starting. You're going to be starting a 70 overall right out the hop. How's that going to work? You want to work in Eric Ashley early. You wanted to work in Nasir Wright early. Keelan Bain, you wanted to get on the field. Obviously, Connor Jameson has worked onto the field more often. I know that's a big thing you've been preaching. That you've been playing five rookies. You trade away Chumley. Obviously, that's hearsay at this point of if Chumley was really an issue. Clearly not, because the Armadillos are not in the playoffs and the Miners are. And then obviously you trade away AJ Pestock, which was a big piece of your defense. You just didn't want to pay him. That's simple business moves. But heading into the season, you just had a lot of question marks that we didn't know what was going to happen, and you answered the call. You have the second seed. Worst case scenario, the third seed. You won the South for the third straight year. And next season's power rankings, you're probably starting up in like the mid-teens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality. The funny thing is, who knows, right? Because the draft is always going to shake things up. There's always going to be teams, there's always going to be really good teams, playoff caliber teams that have multiple first round picks. And so when a playoff team is able to get, even better, it can create some separation. One thing that's interesting, we talked about this a little bit before the show, is that there is a lot of trades that happen before the draft. Right as the season ends, there's a lot of draft capital trades that happen. And you actually pointed out, and I hadn't looked at this, but I thought it was rather interesting, is that the majority of, I forget how many you said it was, if you had an exact number, but the majority of the teams that traded away their first round pick next year, right? Because when you trade away your first round pick, a lot of times that has risks, right? If you're not a powerhouse team and you trade away your first round pick, then you're really potentially missing out on some key contributors that you could acquire through the draft. But you were saying how a lot of those teams that traded away those first round picks, they actually played really well this year.
Yeah, so some of the teams are the T-Birds, the Huskies, the Tigers, the Gunners.
Right.
The Gunners are kind of the shaky one. The Diablos. I think the Voyagers don't have their first round pick. I think someone else possesses theirs.
I think the Tigers. I think I have the Tigers first round pick, but I think the Tigers have the Voyagers first round pick.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like the Gunners are the one team where you could say, yeah, maybe that was a bad move. But even the Gunners, they're not. It's not like they have a top 10 pick. Like they might be picking like 12 through 14. Yeah, obviously that's a valuable player, but in hindsight, it's not that bad of a loss. Every other team that doesn't have a first round pick is in the playoffs or just on the fringe. Like the Voyagers need a win. The Tigers are wishy-washy at the moment on potential playoffs. Like right now, they're not in it. They're the 8th seed. But they've been in the playoff conversation since the thing came out in week 13. This is the first week they're not on the playoff graphic. So for the first time in a long time, it appears that everyone who traded away their first round pick actually it's worked out, because I'm a prime example. I gave Davis my first round pick for this past draft. He took Don Watts with it, and that came out to be like the 15th pick. I traded it for the 13th pick. I took Josh Hardy with it. And in hindsight, I think Josh Hardy has developed into something that has developed into a linebacker that I'm fine with saying, okay, I didn't have a first-round pick last year. I'm fine calling Josh Hardy a player worth 2 first-round picks. Now, that's a little absurd to say, but I didn't like throw that pick away where Josh Hardy's like, damn, I can't believe I gave away a first round pick to get this player. I'm very happy with the player I got and the pick I had to give up to get him. So it all worked out in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, I traded a 80, I believe it was 81 star dev offensive lineman for the Tigers first round pick. When I was making that trade, I was hoping and anticipating that it would be a top 10 pick, or certainly in the 12 range, given the state of the Chicago Tigers at the time of the trade. Now, that being said, the Tigers have done a phenomenal job of acquiring free agents and making trades and putting themselves in a position where now they are knocking on the door of making the playoffs. And the Tigers haven't been in the playoffs as long as I've been in the league, and
They've
that's a
never made the
credit to.
playoffs. This would be their first playoff appearance. So
Okay, so
making
they've
that
never
trade
made it.
would very much be a logistical move for you, saying the
Sure.
Tigers have never made the playoffs. Let's get their first round pick because they've never made the playoffs. So that's
They've
the
never
top
done
18 pick. And this is the year they decided to pull the rabbit out of their hat and put up a fight.
Yeah, just doesn't quite work out. Let's see. I don't know, only because it's there. So I'm going to potentially go down this rabbit hole. Smitty, I don't get the logic at all about the 70. I mean, I think at this point we've beaten a dead horse. I assume someone's talking about Miles McCain. Fry said he disrespected McCain. I mean, I think the logic here is if you were to ask every single person who's involved with the RFL, is the 70 too low for Miles McCain? Yes or no? Not. I would guess, maybe I'm wrong, but I would guess that the vast majority would have said, yes, that's too low. So, I mean, I guess that's the logic, right? I mean, the majority of the league thought that was too low. Now, whether or not what that has to do with Jacob McCall, I mean, I don't know. But I think that's where people, that's where I think that conversation comes from. People thought that it was too low. I don't care anymore. I didn't really care. I cared a little. I cared more about, I think, not having the dev, but I don't care. I knew what this team was going to look like now, I guess, versus what it looked like then. So, yeah, the guys in the locker room use that as a chip on their shoulder. Like, I'm glad that Fry or Bain or EA or Miles, I'm glad that they play with a little bit of that chip. And I hope they all feel that way because it motivated them throughout the season. And look at where it got us. And moving forward, who cares? Like, I don't really think at this point, the only reason why that's become a topic for anyone, I think, is because nobody had us winning the division. We just won the division. It's new. It just happened. It's almost like recency bias, right? Nobody was really talking about Miles and his rating 4 or 5 weeks ago. But now all of a sudden, there's some buzz around the team because we won the division 3 years in a row and we kind of shocked everyone by doing it this year. And so there's people that are going back to that original, oh my God, remember when? And I just think it's a little bit played out, but,
Well, I think one point that I'd be fine harping on is that, yes, obviously Smitty says that Miles and McCall were the same overall, but I also could make a case that the general consensus was that McCall was too low. It was the rating spread of DJ to Kai Cash to McCall and Leo Moon.
right.
Like, Cash was a 76. The next highest was a 71 with Moon, and the next was McCall at a 70. So obviously, Daryl is head and shoulders, knees and toes, the best quarterback of the last two classes. But just looking at it like Pool versus Cash. But so yeah, I'm just saying like I think McCall had a low overall in the same sense that McCain had a low overall. Yes, they both equally played the same, but to say that well McCall's a 70, so it's okay to McCain's a 70. Yes, I agree with that, but a lot of people thought that McCall was also low in the same breath.
I also think too, everyone is going to disagree on several things that happen on draft day, whether it's a dev or whether it's overall or whether it's the position that they get drafted. And that's why, it's difficult for it's extremely difficult for Smitty to come up with all these draft classes and be the only one really that has the knowledge and the know-how of what all these players are going to be and what they're going to have and what they're not going to have. And no one's ever going to be happy. It's 2023, guys. We live in a world where nobody wants you to be happy. Everybody wants to criticize everything. And that's just the way that it is. Everybody is unhappy. And if you're happy for 1 minute, people are trying to find a reason to make you unhappy, right? Like that's just the way that it is. I'm trying to figure out too, Mitchie, what are you like lipping in the background?
Tor just joined my PlayStation party, so I was telling him that I was on your podcast.
Oh, I'm like, what? Mitchie's talking to himself. He's not even on mute. So yeah, I think, it's very easy for people to criticize Smitty and how he puts together the draft classes, but it's not easy. And to his defense, no one's going to be happy all of the time. No matter what, somebody's going to complain about something. Even if he had made, I guess because we're talking about Miles here, if he had made Miles McCain a 74, then there are 20 to 25 people who would have been complaining that it was too high. Now there's 50 or 60 people that are complaining that a 70 is too low. So what you mean to tell me is that Smitty had a window of like 2 overall points where people weren't going to be disappointed? Like a 70, people are rioting outside his front door. A 74, people are still rioting outside his front door, but for different reasons. So like, I just think that, short of Smitty perhaps not being the only person who's involved in the process, which I don't envision happening, I just think you just have to take it for what it is. And myself personally, I kind of did. I knew that McCain was an active guy. I knew that he would be able to build himself up. And sure, he came in as a 70 overall, but now I believe he's at a 79 overall.
78 with the potential.
Right. He's got 78 and then he's got the one temporary. So, and who knows, maybe there's a chance between now and the end of the year, he gets an XP upgrade and gets to 79.
All it takes is one scenario that gets you 2,500 XP and you're cooking with oil. So
right.
Anything's possible.
Right. All right. So let's move on. I think that was way too long on something that I wasn't even planning on talking about, but I did want to, I feel like too often people go at Smitty for a lot of that. And it's never really me. I might disagree on some things, but back to where Dunner was right. So the Columbus Explorers may miss the playoffs here, guys. There is a realistic scenario where the Columbus Explorers do not make the playoffs. And that was said on this very show about 8 weeks ago, I think it was. And it was when I said it, I was like, this is one of the dumbest things that I'm ever going to say on this show. And I said it because I knew that it was quote unquote possible. And now here we are with it staring us in the face where we could be talking about a team that went undefeated last year, won the Real Bowl, and they might not make the playoffs. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because if they win, they are in, and they play the Houston Gunners this week, which I just think that the Gunners are too unpredictable. And
also the Gunners aren't playing for anything. That's the other thing. Like,
well,
they're really
that's
not like they don't have a first round pick, so and they don't have a second round pick, and they don't have a third round pick. Well, they do, but not their own. 'Cause
do the
I
Gunners
have
even know that there is a draft during the
I was
offseason?
gonna say, well, that's the thing. I have the Gunners second and third. The Dreadnoughts have their first. The Gunners have like somebody's third. They have a third, but not their own.
Not their own.
So it's not like they're not playing for draft position. So
No,
as
I
long
mean,
as Tyler Cage gets 9 tackles, it don't matter what happens. Explorers win, Cage gets 9 tackles, and the world can riot.
and if that happens, then on the next episode of Miners Live, where Dunner was wrong, you'll have Jacob Reed will have had a better rookie season than Tyler Cage. Because to Mitchie's point, what he's talking about is that if Tyler Cage gets 9 tackles in that game, he will break the record for tackles, which is set by Jacob Reed in his rookie year last year. So that's kind of where that is. I know many of you have been watching this show from the jump, know that I've been in the camp of, if I had my pick, I would prefer to have Jacob Reed, but I said that a year ago, and 6 months from now or a year from now, I might not feel that way anymore. Tyler Cage has played fantastic, and you're allowed to be wrong, right? Like, that's why I have this segment. You're allowed to be wrong, and you're allowed to correct yourself or change your mind. Just know, I know this, that it's going to come with some criticism. I'm okay with changing my stance on some things, knowing full well that 5 or 10 guys are probably going to pull receipts a month from now and be like, but you said this. You said that Jacob Reed was better than Tyler Cage. And now look, and because that happens. Again, guys, it's 2023. If you don't think that stuff's going to happen, you're wrong. And then on the flip side here, where Dunner was wrong, the Tigers will make the playoffs. So now the flip side here is that there's a strong scenario where the Tigers, because they just lost last week to the Brooklyn Barons, do not make the playoffs. And that was not something that I would have thought 2 weeks ago. If you were to tell me that the Tigers, who had swept the Columbus Explorers and were in a position to make the playoffs, were now not going to make the playoffs, I wouldn't have believed you. I have said from about week 5 or week 6 that I thought the Tigers were going to make the playoffs. I've said that the NRC North is the best division in the RFL. I still believe that. I think that it's unfortunate for the Tigers that we're talking about them possibly not making the playoffs when it's because they're in that division. If you put the Tigers in any of the other 5 divisions, worst case scenario is they're in second and they might win some of them. Right. So it's just, it's a tough spot for the Tigers to be in. But I was wrong. I said, I planted that flag. Tigers are making the playoffs, and now they might not. Where Dunner was right. The Red Dragons should not have drafted a quarterback during the draft. If you guys remember back to the draft, there was a lot of speculation around the quarterback position. And I understand a lot of it came from my camp, because we didn't have what you would consider to be a starting caliber quarterback on the roster. So the quarterbacks out there was Calvin Poole, there's Monty Wyatt, there's Miles McCain. I'm drawing a blank here. Who's the, what'd you say?
Tosh.
Oh yeah. Taj Gatti. So, there were quarterbacks out there, and there was conversation around, I think the Red Dragons had, would they have like pick 20? No,
15.
we just had it. They had 15, but didn't they have one after 15 too?
Well, they had second round picks, but they only had one first.
I thought maybe they traded one maybe they traded one. I thought they had one in the 20s that maybe they traded before the draft. Maybe not. At pick 15, there was conversation. Well, could the Red Dragons move on from Anthony Savoy? They looked a little stagnant last year. Savoy didn't look like the Real Bowl champion quarterback that he was in his rookie season. And there was conversation about that. And credit to Coach Davis, because he said, and I don't know if it was to you, Mitch. I don't know if it was
He said
in
on
an interview with
CP
you.
podcast.
Okay. He said, listen, no. And it was before the draft. I'm not moving on from Anthony Savoy. Anthony Savoy is our guy. And credit to him for doing that, because, not every coach would sort of tip their hand a little bit. And obviously we could call smoke and mirrors if he had drafted a quarterback, but he stuck with his guy. He stuck with right. This is the famous saying, and Fry and I joke about this a little bit. Dance with the girl, dance with the girl that you went to the dance with. Dance with the girl that brought you to the dance, right? And that's what Davis did. Savoy got him to the dance, and he's riding it out with him. And now we don't know what that looks like 3 or 4 years from now, but to have the 15th pick in the draft, I didn't think that it made sense for them to draft a quarterback. But I think there were a lot of people that questioned, did you think that the Red Dragons, Mitchie, were going to take a quarterback?
I mocked Kellen Poole to them in one of my mock drafts.
That's right.
I was one of the big proponents to put Kellen Poole to the Red
Dragons.
This was a make or break season for Anthony Savoy in the simplest terms, just based off of his archetype, because he was stuck at a scrambler. He got a key upgrade this season that was the deciding factor between him being a scrambler for life or him becoming a pocket passer. And he was able to get the upgrade that locked him into being a pocket passer. And now we've seen the season that he's presented in front of us. So literally one upgrade decided the fate of Anthony Savoy's career, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was kind of glad that they didn't go quarterback, because I was a little bit worried that if they did, maybe they went Miles.
The topic was that they shouldn't have drafted Chip Taylor. I'm like, I don't know if a 6th-round quarterback is a topic, but fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said from day one, once Calvin Poole goes, there's really not a lot of need to take quarterbacks. I mean, what Calvin Poole went, was it 12? 7. Calvin Poole, I had 12. Calvin Poole went 7, and then there wasn't another quarterback taken until I took Miles at 29. And I remember being on the clock at 13, people thinking I should have taken a quarterback. Being on the clock at 23, people thinking, oh, this is where they're going to go quarterback. But I also knew that there wasn't really teams that needed a quarterback. And I also knew that the quarterbacks were probably close enough together where if I really missed out and somebody really did reach and take my guy, which was Miles all along, he was always the guy. If somebody did reach and take him, it wasn't going to be the end of the world, and I was just going to get a different guy that was probably similar overalls. But it didn't work out. I'm glad that way. I'm sure Miles is happy he is where he is, and we can all just look forward to the playoffs. And then last one here, I've got where Dunner was wrong. I had the Aviators winning the ARC North. I really did. I thought that they were going to be, I guess, better than they turned out to be. I don't really know. I don't really know where. I guess if you had to look at one thing as being the downfall of this team, you could say that maybe Kingston Kenny underperformed a little bit. I don't like Mitchie. What do you?
It's kind of difficult to really pinpoint where the Aviators went wrong in this because Kingston Kenny's still like third in the league in rushing yards. So it's just crazy to think that him being third in the league is a down year, which in theory it actually is. But I don't know, it's just interesting to think about. I don't know, Marquise throwing interceptions. A couple of those games kind of fell to the wayside. Their defense has never been their thing. Like that's I'm trying to think who said it. I think it was Creed in a VC, or maybe it was back and Creed, or both of them. So if we make the playoffs with just two players, that's the thing. Like it's very well established that the Aviators have two players who make their team. Yeah, Lynn Mayberry and DeKing Armstrong are good players. Don't get me wrong, but Kingston Kenny and Marquise Washington are the engine and the transmission of the Aviators. Without one, they have nothing. Like Keys can throw, but Kingston Kenny having a great game on the ground is very crucial, and vice versa. Kingston Kenny can run all day, but if Marquise Washington isn't playing very well, the outcome's not going to be pretty. So,
Right. I think the one thing that one of the key takeaways here is, I mean, obviously having 1,400 yards is fantastic. Like I can't imagine talking about a guy who put up those numbers as having a down year. But we talk about this quite a bit and how this year, the league is very pass heavy, and it benefits those teams that throw the ball more. And I mean, for me, I don't have to look any further than where we are right now, talking about the Aviators having a running back who went over 1,400 yards and they don't make the playoffs. Meanwhile, we have a rookie quarterback and a running back who is barely going to lead his own team, right? Like the Thunder and Lightning duo of Jakari Torres and Damani Manuel, like they're not that far apart in terms of yards on the ground. Now, Damani Manuel far exceeds because he's such a crucial part to the passing game for us. But again, it just goes to that point that the league this year is so pass friendly. And if you have the guns, right, and you have the ammunition between the quarterback, the tight end, the wide receiver, if you have that right combination, you can get by with, I guess, mediocre running back play. Would you agree?
well, obviously you're using yourself as your example, but
Sure. I mean, that's the easy example for me.
Well, yes, I know. It's easy to use you as the example, but you also have this thing called a menacing defense, which is something that the Aviators don't have. I'm not saying that the lack of a run game and Miles McCain being a rookie aren't playing a factor.
Sure.
But getting turnovers and getting sacks definitely greatly help the outcome of your guys' games. Like you rarely, and I mean rarely, like I think 1 in 1,000, see a game finish 7-0 with the one touchdown on the very first drive of the game. So that doesn't say something, or your 6 interceptions the week next against the Dillos, that's another factor of that your defense is good. And that's just 2 different categories. That's one, holding a team to no points, but you only score 7. And then the next week is you hold the team to nothing, but get 41.
Right.
So
yeah. And so since we are there, shout out to everyone on the defensive side of the ball for my team, because I know I pointed this out on the game on Monday night. Prior to that incredible batted ball touchdown that the Dreadnoughts got, we had not allowed a point for 11 quarters in RFL play. So dating back to the 7-0 game that Mitchie talked about against the Riverhogs, shutout. Then the 6 interception game against the Armadillos, shutout. Then an automatic win. And then the next RFL game, the Dreadnoughts had shut them out through 3 quarters, and we're in the 4th quarter when they were going for it on 4th down. I legitimately thought we were going to get another shutout because it was 4th and goal, I think it was, and they went for it. And I was like, oh my God, if we hold them here, we're going to get the ball and we're going to shut them out again. And I forget who it was in the back of the end zone, swatted the ball, but he swatted it right to, I think it was Amane who caught it.
I don't even think it was 4th and goal. I think it was like 4th and 15 or 4th and 17. It was something mildly egregious of like they were like at least 20 yards away from the end zone on 4th and goal.
And it worked. Down. You know, I mean, look, I'm never going to complain about, you know, the way the defense is playing right now, but it would have been nice for the guys in the locker room, certainly, to be able to go 3 weeks in a row without allowing a touchdown. But we move on. So that was where Dunner was right, where Dunner was wrong. I try to do that for you guys to give you an opportunity to, call me out for things that I got wrong, right? Like, I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I think that's what makes a lot of this fun, is that you can have an opinion, you can have a hot take and be proven wrong, and it's okay. So where Dunner was right, where Dunner was wrong, every week here on Miners Live. I'm going to get into a couple other things here. I've got one piece of info. I've got 2 pieces of information that I don't think anyone outside of our own locker room is aware of right now. And I know there's one piece of information that I'm going to provide for you guys, some breaking news that literally nobody knows, not even the guys in our locker room know. And I'll start
Miles
with
McCain is being benched from the playoffs. Caleb Brown is getting the start. Breaking news.
No, but you know what? I will say this, since we are talking about a guy being benched, he's not being benched because I'm benching him. He's being benched because he got hurt during training this week. But Connor Jameson will not be on the field this weekend. Again, it's a non-RFL game. It's an automatic win, but Connor Jameson did suffer a high ankle sprain. He will miss this game, but he will be back for the playoffs. So what's that?
Are you guys playing the Eagles? I know this is mildly off topic.
Yes, we are playing the Eagles.
Oh, so you get to play against the guy who's winning MVP right now.
Really?
Yeah. The Eagles quarterback is leading MVP right now.
Isn't the Eagles quarterback a running back?
Yes. If you were in the VC last night, I made an attempt to change the top 3 MVP getters to running backs to let an RFL player actually win the award. But, he's being persistent. He threw for like 500 yards at running back against the Huskies in a 50-36 shutout last week.
Okay, so that makes so much sense because, okay, I'm going to tell you, I started to do some test work.
Mm-hmm.
And when they showed the game intro, they showed number 15 and it said halfback or running back. I forget what it says on the screen. And then they were talking about how he threw 5 touchdowns the week before. And I was like, wait a minute. How in the world are they starting a running back at quarterback? And then furthermore, how in the world does he throw 5 touchdowns? But what I will tell you, I don't know if you are aware of this. What does happen when you do that? They fumble the handoff 9 times out of 10. So I've done a couple test sims, I will tell you. And for those of you that are curious, go and test it out. Take a running back, move him to your quarterback. I only ran a test for like the first half of the game. And in the first half alone, they fumbled the handoff 4 or 5 times. Not like the running back got the ball, he got hit and he fumbled. Literally, he took the handoff and just dropped it. And I've never seen that before in my life. And I'm like, what is the attribute that this guy doesn't have where he can't even hand the ball off? And now I know why. It's because you were manipulating. And that's what, but I wonder, there's got to be an attribute there. Or is it just as simple as you change the position?
I don't know. All I know is in Madden Ultimate Team, if you put a punter at quarterback, the handoff is faster, and you can run better. You can have a better running game if you have a punter at quarterback,
Wow.
because the handoff animation is faster.
Huh.
So because I think it was Madden. This is off topic, but in Madden 20, in competitive Madden, all the competitive Madden players were putting punters at quarterback and just running the ball because it was unstoppable. Running back stretch with a punter at quarterback. So
I would have never known. I've literally, I can tell you, I've never played Mutt before. I have no desire to.
yeah, I don't either.
all
Yeah,
right.
so that's why that happened. Their quarterback is listed as a running back right now in efforts to let an NFL player win the MVP, but he's still doing it.
Can you just move him to punter?
I think I'm probably going to end up having to do that this week. Move him to punter.
Okay. All right. Yeah, do that so he doesn't throw for 5 touchdowns on me, because I've got some game scenarios that I'd like to hit. And if he throws for 5 touchdowns, I'm probably not going to hit him.
Well,
although if he throws for 5 touchdowns,
their backup
and I
quarterback won. Hey, to be fair, last year the Eagles' now starting quarterback won Rookie of the Year and threw for almost 6,000 yards on the Riverhawks.
Now that I think about it, I actually hope that he throws for 5 touchdowns, because if he throws for 5 touchdowns, that we're still going to win. So if he throws for 5 touchdowns, then chances are we've got 6 touchdowns. So
yes,
that's actually an even better scenario.
In theory, that would be a good thing. But the way Madden would work it is Miles would somehow throw 1, Devontae Mayo would have 2, Jakari would have 2, and then there's a random fullback. And then
it would be a pick 6. There'd be a pick 6 or something.
Yeah, it'd be a pick 6, or your fullback get the touchdown.
Yeah, you are definitely right. I have noticed that that happens. I will get excited when I see an automatic win and we scored 45 points, and then I go in and I see that Miles had 1 touchdown and 1 interception, and I'm like, what? Where did we get 45 points from? So definitely true there. All right. So another piece of information that you guys may not have seen, our starting middle linebacker, Chad Heath, was coming up on this was his walk year, and we were able to work a deal to bring him back. He is our starting middle linebacker. This is the guy that basically took over for AJ Pestock when Pestock was traded to the Huskies. So it's nice to have Heath back for 2 more years. Not a very high dollar value there. And that will keep him in Sacramento for 2 more years. He's, I believe, 26 years old right now. So he'll be with us at least through his age 28 season, which is, about the time where, depending on your production and your performance, you could start to see some guys regress. So locking him in for 2 more years, only $5.4 million. I think that's a pretty good deal. And then the one that the guys in my locker room don't even know this. I was able to make this work and get this done earlier today. And I thought about telling them and I didn't. I just said, screw it. You know what? They're going to have to watch Miners Live tonight. But congratulations to everyone in the Sacramento Miners locker room. We will be with the presence of Derek Oliveros for 5 more seasons. He is locked into a 5-year, $90 million deal. I tried to look before coming on air. I believe that makes him the highest paid safety in the RFL. I'm not 100% correct.
Oh, poor Dunn. Come on, Dunn. You got to know about Moneybags. Ethan King making $218 on the Barons.
Oh, so you know what it was? I was looking at Neon. You're right, because I do remember this. I remember when he made this move and we all laughed at him. I went by Neon, and Neon doesn't do as good a job of breaking down. It was a 5-year deal for $90 million. It just shows you like what the cap hit is. And then it also doesn't go and show you every single year of the deal. So it's hard to kind of do that backwards math. And because it's the Barons, I didn't I didn't have privy to it in the actual file. So yes, you're right. I believe this will make Derek Oliveros the highest paid safety in the ARC, surpassing the deal that the Cougars gave to Markel
I was
Wilcox.
about to say, it might Marco Wilcox still might be up there.
I think so. I think Markel Wilcox's was 7 years at 102,
Something like that.
which breaks out to if you're going by total dollar amount, Markel Wilcox is higher, 7 years 102. If you're going by AAV, Oliveros is higher. Markel Wilcox is getting average annual value of about 15 million, and Oliveros is now going to be getting average annual of 18 million. So the way this worked out was 11 million in base, 7 million in bonus. But for a 24-year-old with superstar dev, there was really, it was not going to be a good day in Sacramento if we were unable to get that deal done. I didn't want to go to the offseason and be put in a situation where I had to franchise tag him, and then run the risk of, possibly missing out next year, not knowing exactly what our cap situation might look like next year yet. So glad we were able to get that deal done. Derek Oliveros will be back with us for another 5 years. Yeah,
there's so much for the
$200 million.
You're gonna let him walk.
Yeah, I mean, I was never gonna let him walk.
I heard GPEP was gonna be the next man up.
I mean, Grant Culpepper's fantastic. Again, so you talked earlier about how I've started 5 rookies this year. Grant Culpepper was well, I mean, Culpepper's 5. No, Culpepper would make 6. That's right. Culpepper would be that 6th rookie. And for all intents and purpose, he's a starter. He gets 35 to 40 plays per day or per game. He is lined up as the sub linebacker, so he's on the field.
That's interesting. Fuck, I just got blinded there, but that's interesting that he's your sub linebacker. I didn't realize that. I would have thought you would have Griffin Whiteside down there because he's kind of 6'3", 215 pounds. Isn't Culpepper's 200 or something?
You know what's funny? Actually, now that you say it, I'm wrong. I've moved them around a lot. Culpepper started the year at sub linebacker, and then I think I've moved. I want to say some weeks I have Oliveros at sub. Some weeks I do have Griffin Whiteside. I mean, they're all
dollar dime nickel quarter defenses are the way of the future. So 3 safeties is pretty normal.
Yeah, and to have the three that I have, and then add them in with Last Chance and Jason DePape, who is also coming back. I'm a big fan of our secondary at this point. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's go out to the chat. You see anything in here that strikes your fancy in the chat right now, Mitch?
I would have to pull up the chat to see that. So let me. Yeah, because I'm not logged into your back room. So I have to actually go to the YouTube channel to see that.
Oh, that's right. I didn't give you the backlog. Yeah, we're good. All right, let's see. What do we got? We got about 5 of. So I guess we can probably just get right into. Oh, you know what? I wanted to talk a little bit about some possible playoff situations. So right now, we're in, and we're staring at Mitchie talk into his PlayStation controller. I believe there are 4 different teams that we could play. We could play the Voyagers. We could play the Red Dragons. We could play the Bulls, I believe. I think they still have a shot, or we could play the Dreadnoughts. The Armadillos and the Aviators are out. I believe the best they can finish is 11-6, and even if they did, they would have the same record potentially as the Bulls, the Dreadnoughts, and the Red Dragons. And if that's the case, the Armadillos and the Aviators both lost to, I believe, the Red Dragons. So they wouldn't be able to get in ahead of them. And then if the Bulls are 11-6, then the Red Dragons are 11-6, and the Dreadnoughts are 11-6, then the Red Dragons would potentially be out, or the Dreadnoughts would be out because they lost to both the Bulls and the Red Dragons. There's some crazy scenarios. And a lot of it, I think, actually comes down to strength of schedule, which unfortunately for us, we can't really predict. I was talking earlier with our RFL bracketologist, Coach Forbes. For those of you that
strength of victory, that is the thing.
What did I say?
Victory.
That's what I said, right?
No, you said strength of schedule.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Strength of victory.
Pretty much the same thing, yeah, but strength of victory.
Right. So there are, and the reason why it's kind of completely out of our control and we have no idea is because there are NFL versus NFL games that are still going on this weekend. And depending on what happens in the NFL versus NFL game, that will determine what my strength of victory is. So, for example, right now, I believe we have the 2 seed, but depending on what happens, I believe with the Panthers versus Packers game,
Packers, yeah.
Depending on what happens with that game, we may fall to the 3 seed and the Huskies move to the 2 seed. And then also depending on what happens with that game might determine what team we might play if the Voyagers lose and it's not the Voyagers. Like there's so much that, unfortunately,
if the Panthers win, the Bulls could make the playoffs. If the Packers win, the Dreadnoughts can make the playoffs.
Right.
Like,
it's
literally the decision of an NFL game could be the playoff bracket deciding thing.
Right.
That's
like
crazy.
If you are the Brooklyn Bulls right now and you are sitting at home waiting for an NFL team to play an NFL team, knowing that that's going to potentially determine whether or not you make the playoffs, that's a very unsettling feeling for Coach Baxter and the Brooklyn Bulls. So
I think that might need to be streamed Monday night in the Discord VC.
Yeah, dude, how great would that be?
Panthers.
Panthers versus Packers.
Because that's the thing. I'm on the Panthers right now. Like I've been on the Panthers all season, just so I have an account in the file. I'm on the Panthers. That's the funny thing. I sim the training. Normally, I actually go through the NFL training just to do it because I like doing it. But this week I just randomized it because I didn't think anything about it. But literally, my random button clicking could be the deciding factor on the playoffs.
That's something. That's something. Obviously, we know that Smitty's listening right now. That would be something that I feel would totally be worth a live stream in the VC. Right. Like obviously we're not going to put it on YouTube. It's not part of the league. We're not doing any of that, but because it is potentially such an important game, why not late night? Right. Like, hey, here we are. It's RFL all night. Why don't we do it tonight live in the VC, Panthers versus Packers. And let's just see what happens. That would
just get it over with so we can know the outcome. Cause that literally, like, you sim the week and it's like these 7 teams. No, the other team made it because the Packers won.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Let's just be grateful that it's not the Eagles and their halfback playing quarterback who's going to win MVP.
Well, the other thing is the Saints and when there's 3 teams with running backs playing quarterback right now.
Because you have to. I get it. I didn't think about it. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. I didn't look at the MVP situation, so I wasn't, super, I guess knowledgeable of the fact that the Eagles quarterback was so high in the MVP race. But
yeah, he's doing really good. He's got like 40 touchdowns, like 8 picks or something. Like he's balling out.
That's funny. All right, so let's talk about another potential scenario down the road. Draft order, right? There are some teams obviously at this point that are not going to make the playoffs, but their draft order is completely up in the air. And so
near locked in, yes.
Yeah, where those ping pong balls might fall, and there's a big difference between whether a team might pick second overall and whether a team might pick, seventh overall. But correct me if I'm wrong here, Mitchie. I believe in not knowing the exact order, obviously at this point, but the 7 teams that are locked into the first 7 picks, which could end up being in any order, would be.
We can't confirm the Shamrocks will possess the first overall pick. That is confirmed.
So the Shamrocks will pick first overall, but picks 2 through 7 will be in some order of the Lancers, the Sentinels, the Pioneers, the Barons, the Cougars, even, which if you thought that the Cougars were going to be picking in the top 5, you would have, you probably would have gotten a smack to the head of former coach Roby. Cougars, Pioneers, Barons, and Desperados. So the Lancers, Sentinels, Cougars, Pioneers, Barons, and Desperados, in some order, will have picks 2 through 7. Obviously, a lot of that will be determined based on the games this weekend. But the only thing that we do know for sure is that the Dublin Shamrocks will have the first overall pick. Now, that being said, I'm going to segue into our final segment here and what I like to call Love It or Shove It. I know this is has quickly become my favorite segment. Give you guys the opportunity to come up with a statement. Again, this doesn't have to be a hot take. It doesn't have to be something that you and only you agree with. It can literally just be a on the fence type of statement. Is it a statement where some people could agree, some people could disagree? But to give you guys the opportunity to come up with some take, some statement for the rest of the league to either love or shove. So today, for Love It or Shove It, I have 4 statements for Love It or Shove It. And because we were talking about the Shamrocks, I want to bring this one up first. And that is love it or shove it. Guys, get ready. So I expect everyone in the chat, get ready. You can put a heart if you love it. You can put a fist or a boxing glove if you shove it, or you can write love it, shove it, whatever you want. But get those comments in there so I can see what you think. Love it or shove it. KMJ on the defensive side of the ball and Hodge on the offensive side of the ball are the biggest letdowns from draft day
so far.
Well, right. I mean, we're only right. I'm not. That's why I said I'm not saying bust. Notice this does not. There's a big difference. This does not say draft day bust. You cannot call someone a bust when they've only been in the league for 17 weeks. So this is merely looking at who they were coming into the draft, where they got drafted at, and what they've done so far this year. Love it or shove it that KMJ and Hodge are the biggest draft day letdowns. Now, to give you guys a little bit of context, because obviously you might not have this readily available, I'm going to go through. Both of these guys were taken inside the top 13 picks, right? So I'm going to read the top 13 picks for you right now to give you a little bit of context of where guys went, and that might skew your opinion. So first overall, Tyler Cage. Second, Cece. Third, Jehovah Hampton. Maybe you can make an argument Jehovah Hampton. I don't know. Fourth, Silverio. Fifth, KMJ to the Shamrocks. And then 6, Deion Bowe. 7, Calvin Poole. You can't say Calvin Poole. He's only played one game. And quite honestly, he looked really good in that one game. 8, Caleb Houston. 9, David Leathers. 10, Sharkley. 11, Alvin Mack. 12, Eric Ashley. And 13 was Nelly Hodge. So that is the top 13. Based on where they went and who they were, Nelly Hodge being the best offensive player in the draft class, and KMJ viewed as, in some people's eyes, the number 1 defensive player, certainly the number 2 defensive player, if he wasn't number 1 in your opinion. Based on where they went and what they've done, love it or shove it, KMJ and Nelly Hodge are the biggest draft day letdowns. Mitch, what do you say before I go out to the chat and try to get some other thoughts here?
Well, obviously, you and I talked about this just before we went live, and this was honestly my idea. So just talking about it, I was a big proponent in the pre-draft process that I felt that KMJ could struggle out the gates coming to the pros because he played in a 3-4 defense for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So he was primarily playing a lot of 3-tech, working up against guards, and if he was going against tackles, most often it was in double teams. So he was getting a lot of sack production, working off of double teams, playing 3-tech. So I really didn't expect him to have a great performance. That's why when I released my edge rankings in the pre-draft process, I had Keno Thedford and even Devontae Moore, who went in the second round at pick 36 or pick 35 to the Explorers. I had Devontae Moore as number 1 because he played the most primary 7 technique or 5 technique, depending on how you want to view the defense. So I didn't expect a lot of things out of KMJ because he didn't have production playing 5 technique. And then Hodge, you would think that this would have been an incredible season for Hodge. The Cougars obviously are a very well-established team. They had Denard Locker, so going into the season, expectations was a split carry load, but just so far, Nelly hasn't had the juice that we would have expected him to have. But we just have to look at Amir, and who am I playing on? Perkins hasn't particularly had that incredible of a second season, but looking
I
at
don't
Amir,
think his
Amir
landing
didn't
spot
have-
was great though.
Huh?
I thought Perk. Do you agree with me though? I thought on draft day 2 years ago, Perk's landing spot didn't make a ton of sense to me. And
Well, to be honest, these 3 running backs we're talking about, Amir, Perk, and now Hodge, none of them particularly, when you look at it, made sense because obviously the Steamers had El Camion and Miles Kerrigan. Miles Kerrigan's up there in age, so that kind of made sense. The Dreadnoughts still have Gilliam, so that was kind of strange. And then obviously the Cougars had Denard Locker. So none of them particularly made sense as first round picks, but we all see the potential that they all can have.
right.
So
the only problem is you'd like to be able to start building on that potential within the first 2 seasons, because as you and I both know, Mitch, the life cycle of the running back, it's very short, right? The running back, of all the positions on the football field, the position that has the shortest career is the running back. And so if you're not getting, that everyday star first round production, right? I mean, we're talking about first round guys. If you're not getting that production until the time they turn 24 years old, well, you kind of, then you're looking at having to re-sign them 1 year later. And it's not an ideal scenario. And then KMJ, like, I agree with everything you said about KMJ. Maybe that's part of the reason why he slid. Maybe you're not the only one who felt that way. Maybe they are, obviously Tyler Cage is Tyler Cage and he's Tyler Cage. But CC going 2, maybe Frankie felt the same way.
The thing. My other argument would be is CC was probably the 4th best player in the draft, just off the basis I've loved to say height, weight, speed. of 6'4", 230, and like 95 speed. So in theory, he's technically the fourth best player in the draft class if you had a big board. So I'm not.
And you're saying so, and you're saying
that.
he's fourth because you're saying Tyler Cage, KMJ,
And
Calvin Poole.
Hodge. If I had a big board, if I had my big board of pure talent, no positions involved, because obviously linebacker and running back aren't particularly valued high, but it would have went Cage, Hodge, KMJ, then CC. So yeah.
And Calvin Poole rounds out the 5, or Calvin Poole not Calvin even Poole in the top 5?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So love it or shove it. Last chance to get anyone's thoughts in here. Agree or disagree? KMJ and Nelly Hodge. So far, again, I'm not calling them bust. You can't call anyone a bust when they haven't even played a full season. But just based on the draft capital that was used to get them, I could understand being a little bit frustrated with the return on the investment up to this point. Love it or shove it. Number 2, both of the number 1 seeds, the ARC and the NRC, will not make the Relo Bowl. Love it or shove it. Basically, we will not have a number 1 seed in the Relo Bowl. So I believe the Steamers are locked into the one,
yes,
right?
Steamers are the ones.
And are the Celtic Tigers locked into the
Monday
one?
Monday night's game will decide the 1 seed. The winner will get the 1.
And it's the Celtic Tigers Bulldogs, right?
Yes. So either Celtic Tigers Bulldogs. Winner gets 1, loser gets 5.
Okay. So on the NRC side, it's the Steamers, and on the ARC side, it's either the Bulldogs or the Celtic Tigers. Love it or shove it, we will not see a number 1 seed playing for the Relo Bowl this year. We'll go out real quick and see what people got. What's your thoughts on that one, Mitchie?
I will say this on public air so everyone can say that I said it. If I do not make the Relo Bowl, I hope the Steamers make the Relo Bowl. Justin, he and I might not see eye to eye on many things, but I do respect Justin, and I respect the grind he has put together with the Steamers. So if the Snowhawks are not in the Relo Bowl, I would like the Steamers to make the Relo Bowl. Justin get his opportunity to go to the ship. Because obviously Bill's been there, and Smitty obviously has been there. And
Smitty runs like 16 teams. Of course he's been there.
Exactly. So Smitty's been there. And obviously Forbes is the other. If Forbes makes it, that's awesome. But Justin has been here just as long as I have, for over 5 years. So if the Portland Snowhawks do not make the Relo Bowl, I would like the Memphis Steamers to be the representative for our conference. So I think the Steamers can make it. And if the Celtic Tigers are the 1 seed, I don't think they make it. If the Bulldogs are the 1 seed, I do think the Bulldogs have an opportunity to make it. So I would shove.
So you're leaning towards shove it. All right.
I would shove it.
So you're not alone. Coach Q also shove it. For pretty much the same reasons that you said. I think the Steamers have a great chance. I don't know about the ARC. I think obviously the ARC, we're talking about 2 different teams that have an opportunity here. So it's easier to shove the ARC because, well, you've got 2 teams that you would be potentially shoving instead of 1. So yeah, I don't know. Selfishly, if it's me, like if I'm talking about the ARC, if I have the 2 seed, then I know there's no way that I can play the 1 seed unless it's for the ARC championship. And if there's one team in the ARC that I want absolutely nothing to do with until I absolutely have to, it's one of those 2 teams. And I would probably lean towards the Bulldogs. And I only say that because they blew the doors off us in week 10, I think it was. And that team just looks really good, and it's not going to surprise me if the Bulldogs win and they get that 1 seed. I think I would probably be happy at that point, because then if we win 2 games, we wouldn't have to play them until the ARC Championship. But that being said, I'm just glad that we're in, and I quite honestly don't really care who we play. I would love to win the first round game because I'm so tired of late fourth quarter collapses in the first round. It's happened 2 years in a row, and I just don't. I don't want to deal with the backlash that I'm going to get if we lose in the first round again. Now, that being said, I'm going to tell all of you right now, if you criticize the Miners for losing in the first round of the playoffs, I just want you to know that you make yourself look really stupid in doing so, because none of you had us even making the playoffs in the first place. So before you criticize any potential, oh my God, the Miners lost in the first round again, just make sure that you're willing to say, oh yeah, but I was wrong because I didn't have them anywhere near the playoffs to begin with. So yeah, what else do we got out here? Smitty, I win when y'all don't. Yeah, well, I mean, if you let me pick 15 times. What else do we got? McCall, love it. So, I mean, I love anyone who's willing to love that, right? I like people that are willing to go against the grain, people that are willing to go, not chalk, if you will. It's very easy to say the 1 seeds are gonna win 3 games in a row and get to the reelable, or 2 games in a row. You only have to win 2, right?
Yeah.
You only have to win 2 games as a 1 seed to get to the reelable. So anyone that's willing to go that route, I'm all for it. So step outside the box a little bit. Shout out to Samurai Nation, McCall, and he doesn't think that a 1 seed will make it. Makai Kelsey, love it, only because if we go on a deep run, we got to play the Steamers if they go on a deep run. Yeah, I mean, this is funny. I'm going to put this up here because I'm old and I'm old enough to get this reference. I hope that everyone gets this reference, but EA says Smitty is Julian from the Big Daddy movie. He wins all the time with different cards, aka different teams. For those of you that don't know what he's talking about in the movie, there's a scene. Julian is the little kid from Big Daddy, and he's playing cards, and no matter what his cards are, he always wins. They flip the cards over, and he's like, "I win, I win, I win." He could have a 2-5 offsuit. I win. So that's a good reference. EA, I don't think you're making any friends from Smitty with that one, but it is pretty funny. Smitty, let that one go. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I know. I didn't see this when it came up, but I assume this is him talking about us playing in the first round. I honestly think that at this point it's like fun for Smitty. He's going to like rig it somehow so that the Miners are going to lose in the first round. Even in the year when we're not supposed to make the playoffs, we make the playoffs. Oh, but they're going to lose in the first round. This will be fun. I really hope Smitty, come on, Smitty, don't you want us to succeed? What kind of storyline is that for the RFL when the team that everyone had predicted, including yourself, mind you, let's not forget, I threw Mitchie under the bus for predicting us preseason 28th in the league, but it's awfully convenient that on your preseason predictions, which has now been deleted from the archives and we can never find it, you had us pretty low too. So, this is a really good storyline for you and the league. If the team that you predicted 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, wherever you had us, can make a run. I'm not saying we have to win the whole thing. I'd love to, but maybe we make a run. Just get us out of the first round, will you? Is that too much to ask? Here it is. Collusion. You guys want to talk collusion? A1 right there. Script for the Miners. Failure. All right. So we've got a couple more. I've only got about 5 to 10 minutes left. We'll get you guys out of here in time to go check out the second half of RFL All Night. Love it or shove it. Number 3, the NRC and the ARC sack leaders will tie and have the same exact amount of sacks. Now, for those of you wondering, well, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know the sack leaders for the ARC and the NRC. So right now, the sack leader for the ARC is Houston Voyagers' Connor Delahart, has 21 and a half. The NRC leader is Nashawn Richardson for the Memphis Steamers, who has 22 and a half. So, love it or shove it, basically, Carter Delahart, will get one more sack this week than Nashawn Richardson does.
Well,
Mitchie, what say you?
An NFL game to also play, so
yeah,
it's possible. So like that would mean that Nashawn Richardson gets 0 and he needs 2, and if he gets 1, then he needs 3. So
well, no, he's 1 behind right now.
Yeah.
Delahart's 1 behind.
Yes,
and they both have
1 game to play. So if
Right.
Delahart gets 1, they're tied. If he gets 2, he's leading. But if Nashawn Richardson gets 1, he needs 3 to keep it tied.
What? No. If Nashawn Richardson gets 1, then Delahart needs 2 to tie. He's down by 1.
Yes, and he needs 3 to take the lead.
Right, but I'm not saying take the lead. I'm saying tie. They'll tie.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, tie. Yeah, but regardless, if Nashawn Richardson gets 1, Delahart needs to get another 1.
Right.
So
what say the community out here real quick? Oh, whoa. I am sorry. I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it. Smitty just said something that not even he believes. And he said something that he expects me to believe, but he didn't even believe it. Y'all act like y'all shouldn't have been there. Y'all were good then. Are we talking about years prior? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm confused. Sorry. I may have read that wrong out of context. I thought he was talking about this year. I was like, we were not supposed to be this good this year. I think I read that wrong. So sorry, Smitty. All right, let's see what we got. Love it or shove it. Delahart and Richardson will finish with the same amount of ties. I see EA out here says shove it. I'm curious, if you're shoving it, do you think that Richardson will hold him off, or do you think that Delahart has a chance to even surpass him? Because again, as you heard us talk about, if Richardson gets 1, then Delahart would need 3 to surpass him. EA says shove it. Nothing else. No one else has a strong take on that, huh? All right. Well, then I will get you out of here with one more. And I think you guys are going to like this one. Maybe we can get some chatter going on this one. Final one, love it or shove it. And again, guys, if you have a comment or something that you would like to see as part of love it or shove it, send it to me. You can send it to me in the Discord, send it to me in a DM. Not everyone has to know. It doesn't even have to be something that you believe. It can just be a statement. It doesn't have to be your opinion. That's the whole point, is that it's simply a statement for everyone to either agree, disagree, love, shove, whatever. Heart, boxing glove, we can do whatever. If you want, I can change the name to Heart or Boxing Glove. That just doesn't have the same ring to it. All right, so before I get you guys out of here, final one. This is my personal favorite. Love it or shove it. That's not it. Miles McCain will become the 3rd rookie quarterback to win the Relo Bowl. Love it or shove it. Miles McCain will become the third rookie quarterback to win the Relo Bowl. Refresh my memory, Mitchie. Anthony Savoy was one. And then, sorry, what was it? Who was the other again?
Anthony Savoy, Daryl Johnson, and Kyle Bain.
Oh, DJ. That's right. Oh, Kyle Bain did it as a rookie too?
Yes. LC3 took them to the playoffs and then got injured. And Kyle Bain dragged the Thunderbirds to the Season 3 Relo Bowl against another rookie, which was Trey Allen. And the year before that, in Season 2, Chum Lee went to the Relo Bowl as a rookie. And the year before that, Timmy Merritt went to the Relo Bowl as a rookie.
There's lots of rookies going to the Relo Bowl.
If you have a rookie quarterback, the odds of making the Relo Bowl are really high.
So there you go, guys. Maybe you should think about that breakdown before you throw your love it or shove it comment in the chat. But again, love it or shove it. So technically speaking, I guess McCain would be the fourth rookie quarterback to win the Relo Bowl, even though Bain was he was a substitute backup for that game only.
Well, no, he led them through the playoffs. He won 3 games.
Okay. So he just wasn't the starter throughout the season. So he was the backup. Either way, love it or shove it, Miles McCain will lead the Sacramento Miners to a Relo Bowl championship as a rookie quarterback. Let's see what the chat has to say. Let's see. Oh, we got to shove it. Smitty, like, this is where I call conspiracy theories, and you guys wonder why we question certain things. I mean, look at your boy here, just blatantly disrespecting the Miners like they don't even exist. Shoving it straight out of the room. I wish I had a kick button. I'd kick you straight out of the room. Let's see. Ramos, shove it. Wow, we're getting no love here. Nothing. No love it. Not a single person. You just heard Mitchie talk about how rookie quarterbacks go to the Relo Bowl, it seems like every other year. We've had 8 seasons in the RFL, and we've seen how many rookie quarterbacks play in the Relo Bowl? I think you named 6 or 7.
3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6.
So 6 quarterbacks out of 16.
Yeah.
16 possible quarterbacks, right? 8 seasons, 2 quarterbacks, 16 possible quarterbacks if no one ever went twice. And we get no love.
Dre went twice. I think he might be the only quarterback that's won twice.
Who?
Dre.
Oh, yeah. So no love whatsoever. All right. I was hoping that maybe we would get one love it. We didn't even love it from my own locker room. Like, come on, EA. Like, where are you? Where's Miles? Like, I didn't even, honestly, guys, this question wasn't even mine. I didn't even come up with this question. This question was brought to me. And I know you all think that I came up with this question. I actually didn't. This question was brought to me. Let's see. Nobody, not a single person. What a bummer. That's all right. Oh, here we go. We finally got one. I'm fighting in the chat. Oh, don't fight. We're all friends here. We're all just having fun. Killian Bain, I love it to the moon and back. There we go. What's Kelsey got? No better hope you get a user coach to face. If it's a CPU, Smitty. Yeah, I mean, you guys heard him. I just want you to know, I'm just throwing it out there right now. You were all witness. If we lose to a CPU team, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right.
That's the thing. You were the only, you would have to try to keep the trend alive because it's almost every other year a rookie makes the Relo Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it really is because season 1, 2, 3, 4 was not because that was LC3 versus Hunter Mackey. 5 was Savoy, who was a rookie, versus Wells. 6 was me and Dre. It was Gidley and Dre. 7 was Hay and Daryl. So
I was like, Hay's not a rookie. Daryl, right?
1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. So And then obviously this year we'll make 8, and there's only one rookie in contention to make it. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could wouldn't
well, technically
wouldn't
Poole.
Calvin Poole
If
right?
if
Wouldn't
you look at
Calvin
Poole,
Poole possibly fall
Poole
into the
fell
same
in.
argument if something were to happen? But who knows? Smitty just not making anyone in the Miners locker room happy, and then he wonders why people are going to be knocking on his door if something does happen. now Smitty better hope that we win it all, because if we don't, everyone's going to be like, wow, Smitty really did rig it. Like, how? That's not fair. You can't do that. But no, great job, guys. Appreciate having you on, Mitch. I'm sure I'll see you a bit on the chat for the RFL podcast. And I forget, before we get out of here, have you officially clinched? You're playing.
Yeah, I'm the only ugly duckling in the wild card round right now that can stay there, because the Tigers, the Monarchs, and the Explorers all have their ways out, but I'm the ugly duckling that is safe in the wild card in the conference.
Okay, so you're in no matter what.
Yeah.
You have an automatic win this week?
Yes, I do. I am
Okay.
playing the Patriots.
Okay. All right. Well, leave it to Belichick to fold and let you in. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Mitchie. Congratulations. I know that this was not without, some contention throughout the season for you. So congratulations on making the playoffs, and best of luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. I'll see you. All right, guys. So that's going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, give you guys the opportunity to go on over to the RFL podcast and check out the breakdown and the recap of last week and everything that you have to look forward to this week. And until next time, I am the head coach and general manager, Coach Chris Dunn of the Sacramento Miners, wishing you all a very happy Wednesday night, RFL all night. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care, everybody.